757-1832 or visit linktocarewa.org.
On Rainier Avenue Radio.world, look for the Change Your Food, Change Your Life show. I'm Dennis Weaver, your good food guide and host, helping you to feel good and look good. And who wouldn't want some of that? All that and more from the Change Your Food, Change Your Life show on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Stories, songs, and get. Begin living the organic good food life, and the rest of your life just may be the best of your life. Always up, baby, to your health.
A new law is helping people save more money on prescription drug costs. You may also be able to save. With Medicare's Extra Help program, your premium cost can be zero and your out-of-pocket expenses are low. Who should apply? Single individuals earning less than $23,000 a year or married couples earning less than $31,000 a year. Even if you don't think you qualify, you should still check out this program. Visit ssa.gov/extra help. Medicare costs are covered by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Don't forget to log on www.rainieravenue radio.world.
Slice of commentary and analysis, the Unmasked Agenda. Here on Rainier Avenue Radio, I'm Cliff and Tony. Right on. So, you might remember me from Politics Off the Cuff and also other shows or panels or various things in the community. What can I say? I'm your friendly neighborhood agitator, but now we have come back for a brand new show that every 2 weeks is going to bring you political commentary, analysis, guests, fun, maybe even just Tony and I playing some games or sharing what we've read, what we've seen lately out in the community, and really just having a good time as both lovers of politics and also really big nerds, you know? So Tony, why don't you break down how this came about?
Yeah, we're at a crisis point for democracy, and we need a show that will elevate activists, community, and engage unapologetically with myself, a progressive, and a self-described left socialist.
Hello.
Without fear.
Absolutely. And that's really important because right now in our community, we are facing some pretty uncertain times ahead. And honestly, we've seen some pretty wild things coming from the other Washington. We've had a lot of conversations in the community about what needs to be funded, about who should lead our fair city, about how our communities are going to grow and develop, and who is going to benefit from all of that. So, and also how we can continue to really live and support each other. So I just want to just dive right in, because one of the things that I know that I've been thinking a lot about is recently Trump has deployed the National Guard to Los Angeles, recently backed off of, also the District of Columbia, backed off of deploying them to Chicago, and now is picking on New Orleans. And in fact, just today, the District of Columbia challenged Donald Trump's use of the National Guard. I'll just be honest. Given what we said before, I'm not going to call the guy president. I mean, I might call him a Russian plant, but that's kind of show we have here. That's kind of fun we have here. But yeah, so a federal court will hopefully, at least from their perspective, intervene as he plans to increase the troop presence in the nation's capital. And in fact, just 2 days ago, a federal district judge in California ruled that the way that Donald Trump has deployed the National Guard to Los Angeles was illegal. And in fact, I'll get into exactly why. But Tony, I'm curious about your thoughts on this.
Yeah, it's a little bit scary, seeing the headlines, and also, not something that I'm used to. I guess you could say I'm a fairly sheltered person, and seeing these types of things in the news is frightening. Ostensibly, like, what is the reason Trump is sending, National Guard troops to essentially what is blue cities? Like, I don't think he's sending them to like red states at all, right?
Oh my goodness. Well, here's the interesting thing with New Orleans. Mayor's a black woman, and all the cities that he has named at this point have been led by black leadership. And in fact, kind of within the Trump brand, that he has argued that all these cities have a crime problem. Now, if you look nationally, that violent crime and even property crimes have been down. And in fact, in pretty much every one of the cities that he's named, crime has been down. And don't get me wrong, people have run-ins with I'm losing my words. Burglaries, assault, things like that. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but when you zoom out and look at the bigger picture, it's been down.
So here's my question.
Yeah.
Like, I acknowledge that crime exists.
Right.
Is that the job of the National Guard to...
Absolutely not.
Okay.
So let's get to Posse Comitatus Act. So funny enough, in the whole irony of this, I mentioned how, let's be real, Trump's a racist. I mean, let's just, this is our preview episode. It's effectively issue 0 of a greater volume of amazing issues that will be released. Exactly. I know we should do like action pose or something like that. Just something like, I don't know. But yeah. So with the Posse Comitatus Act, at the end of Reconstruction, that was passed to prevent the Army and the armed forces in general, including the National Guard, from being used to do domestic policing, and really being used to do domestic it barred them from being used to do domestic policing unless it was in a case of an insurrection. I know, the irony, right? Or invasion, right? And in fact, I should add that the current sitting president, who through a long House committee inquiry was shown to have incited an insurrection on January 6th, not forgotten, right? That part of the inquiry revealed that he actively blocked and scuttled the ability for the Maryland and Virginia National Guard and Baltimore and Alexandria police from being able to come to the Capitol and actually back up the Capitol Police during the January 6th insurrection, right? An actual attempt to overthrow, or rather to stop, more specifically to stop the peaceful transfer of power and thus keep him in power longer by virtue of a crisis, right? Mm-hmm. So, in short, the federal judge in California deemed that Donald Trump has violated the Posse Comitatus Act. U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer. So I'm sure it'll go to the appeals court. But of course, he said that this is just a rogue judge trying to usurp the authority of the commander-in-chief, protect American cities from violence and destruction. But let's be real. Crime is down. What other... And if you look at where crime is actually spiking, it's in red states. And in red states, which brings me to New Orleans, which is where Trump is actually, and I don't attribute this just to Trump. I attribute this to his toady, Stephen Miller, that, as I like to call him, angrier megamind. If you look at him, very bald, a man that I think all of the hate has basically taken away his hair. But that essentially that one of the hindrances to this occupation of Los Angeles and DC has been the inability to have the surrounding National Guards from various states to intervene. And in fact, Governor J.B. Pritzker was very resolute in his opposition to using the Illinois National Guard, and it's general practice that really the National Guard is only federalized, and the federal government really only gets involved when the governor of that state invites them to come and intervene in the case of a national, or rather a natural disaster, or in the case of an invasion or something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, I can't imagine that they would be invited here, right?
Right.
So what's the likelihood you think that, like, they get sent here anyway?
My brother, I'll tell you right now, I am deeply disturbed because the reality of it is the current environment is one in which Trump is operating without much accountability, right? So without going into too much of the legalese, that when it comes to an official act, this past year when Biden was still in office, the Supreme Court deemed that the president has wide latitude when committing official acts, right? So when acting in their capacity as president of the United States.
Right.
Second of all, right now we have a crisis in congressional leadership. That partisanship has seemed to really take precedent over, because Congress could intervene. That as part of the president's power as commander in chief, that within, I believe it is within 30 days of deploying the National Guard or using military forces, due to the authorization of Military Forces Act, that Congress can basically tell Donald Trump, hey, withdraw these forces, right? But and in fact, if I'm looking at the ruling, the ruling is on hold until the 12th of September. So effectively, these troops are going to stay in place at least until then. So I'm curious as to, what do you think our communities can really do to be able to protect themselves?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't have the answers here,
Right.
because this is all unprecedented, right? Like,
Right.
and I think one of the things that, like, kind of helps me to kind of reflect on either like paths forward or to have a perspective on things like this is like the kind of fiction that we consume,
Right.
like just as, sometimes inspiration of like, if there's a way forward or why we should be, continuing to fight things like this, overreaches like this. So let me pitch you back a question.
Yes.
And hopefully make this a little bit fun, because this is also like, a fun pop culture.
If we're not having fun, then why are we here?
Right? Like what given this particular situation, is there any kind of like fictional like story or world, that you could point to that either is, helps us reframe the situation to understand it better for folks like me and folks in the community, and or gives us a path forward?
So for those of us that are joining us at home, so we're not just going to discuss politics on the show. The Unmasked Agenda is actually an allusion to something both Tony and I like a lot, which is comics. And funny enough,
Guilty as charged.
Right? Shame. No, I'm joking. I mean, comic book movies, right? They're big business these days. I mean, more and more people, and I think that's what is beautiful about Seattle. We have such a rich culture when it comes to fandoms, and don't worry, I'll get to your question in a second. But this is something that differentiates us, I feel, from other shows, and that's something that you're going to be able to come to expect from our show as in the next as you're going on this journey with us every couple of weeks. But to your point, there have been a lot of really great books that have been written about people fighting back against fascism and also finding a way to live and find joy. Particularly, Calexit is a great book. If people want to patronize their local comic book stores, Calexit is a great book. It's available in trade paperback. I definitely recommend it. It's a little gritty. For something that's a bit more PG, I would say let's think about how actually there's a really great novelization of March, or rather of the civil rights movement called March. And that always brings me hope, or rereading that brings me hope in times like this,
Yeah,
right?
that, like it's been done before. We could do it again.
Exactly. And I think just off the top of my head, I think when we think about institutions of power, we often forget that really they're made up of people, that we are able to pressure we're able to pressure these institutions. And if Trump does decide to send the National Guard to Seattle, which he has threatened to do, then instead of us cowering in fear or trying to change what is actually working to bring down crime in not just the city of Seattle, but in many cities across the state of Washington. Instead, we should think about things like nonviolent non-cooperation. And also, I just want to shout out a book called Mutual Aid. It's a very thin book that that has actually inspired a lot of people throughout the pandemic. But before I forget, I also just want to remind folks that who might be tuning in a little bit late that we are. This is the Unmasked Agenda. It has myself, Cliff, and Tony here, who are going to bring you political commentary, analysis, and the latest and hopefully most entertaining commentary about nerd culture this side of Mississippi. So, or you know what, let's say across the continent. Why not? Let's be bold, you know? And also, I just want to remind folks that we also have a number of great things coming up here at the station, including tomorrow there is going to be a new show that called The Warm Fuzzy Feeling, and you're going to see a number, or rather you're going to hear some really nice chill sounds. I'm going to tune in. I know on my Friday evenings, I always love to hear a little bit of jazz, a little bit of lo-fi hip-hop, just like our intro. So tune in to that Warm Fuzzy Feeling. And also high school football starts this Saturday at noon with Franklin at number 19 Farfield. This year there will be play-by-play, color commentary, sideline interviews, multiple camera angles, and just up-to-mid scores and standings. Since, as you can probably tell, both Tony and I, huge nerds, that's not really our world. Can I confess on here that I'm more into soccer? And Daniel, is that okay? The motioning to our producer. Gotta give it. Tony. Oh, come on, man. Come on.
Yeah, this is, I think, the part where I also admit that, like, a longtime combat sports guy. So
Right. Okay. Yes.
Yeah,
See, that's
I'm
cooler.
sorry.
That's cooler. Come on, man.
I don't
Come
know
on.
that it's cool. I mean, like,
Yes, it is.
okay.
I mean, seriously, come on. Like, I feel like amongst us millennials, there is a huge core of us that grew up on anime. So, it made comic sports, or rather contact sports, at least in somewhere in our imaginations, cool, right? Well, not combat sports. Did I say contact? I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, like, combat sports are definitely full contact.
Well, yeah,
So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, I've been talking a lot. So let me ask you something. So what have you been watching lately?
Oh, well, coincidentally, just last night I caught the new Darren Aronofsky film, Caught Stealing, mostly because, like, I read the novel and I didn't realize that he was going to adapt it into a film. So that was it was really, really fun. Mostly just because, like, the book Caught Stealing by Charlie Houston is about, a guy who is, speaking of sports, not full contact, but he's a washed out baseball player who just kind of gets involved with the wrong people. And it's just like this never ending kind of domino effect of just bad things happening to him as he's trying to, like, look out for his neighbor's cat and stay away from a bunch of gangsters.
Right. I really like Darren Aronofsky. I was just double checking one film that I love of his, and I know it's going to seem really pretentious. I say that, but I gotta be honest. I love the film Mother.
So that's super controversial.
Yes, I know.
Like, tell me why you like it.
Yeah, no, but it because it's great. It's basically retelling. So it's basically retelling the book of Genesis all the way to Revelation and New Testament, but with imagery that is just picked from our contemporary world. And it almost is like in a very apocalyptic warning, and it is very auteur. It's very surreal, but I feel like when it comes to how we are seeing the division between not just the wealthy and the poor globally, but within the United States grow, and the policies that we are putting in place that demonize the poor, that it's a good reflection.
So in this framing, Javier Bardem is like a really super rich billionaire who just is kind of like no regard for anyone around him. He makes decisions, and everyone has to live with the consequences.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, that's been the trajectory of more authoritarian or like less egalitarian civilizations, where you have autocrats that sorry. Oh, it must be the is there dust in here, Tony? Jeff Bezos. Amazon. Oh God. But yeah, where you have these autocrats and oligarchs that are simply socializing the losses of their whatever initiatives, whatever gambles they have, and they are they are socializing the losses and privatizing the gains, while also urging, and unfortunately you have a lot of people that buy into propaganda, urging the public to see the poor, those who are quote unquote losing the game of capitalism, as those who are at fault.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I didn't think I'd be talking about Mother tonight. But
yeah, no,
this is a good frame, I think, particularly for this show.
I know, right?
Not to spoil 10 seconds from now, but speaking of people who are successful and very rich, and maybe sometimes don't always suffer the consequences of their actions because everyone else around them is doing that. Like, what have you been watching, Cliff?
So couple of things. So Highest to Lowest, I saw that last night, and Spike Lee is still a brilliant filmmaker. That one of the things that I really love in Highest to Lowest, I mean, there are a lot of
give us like a capsule kind of like.
So Highest to Lowest is the story of a music mogul played by Denzel Washington, who has done very well for himself throughout his career, and he decides that he wants to buy his publicly traded record company. He wants to keep that legacy within his family. He feels like he has still more to contribute to the field, and unfortunately, his son is kidnapped, and then he has to decide whether or not he's going to be able to, continue with his plans to stay relevant, or if he's going to be able to reckon with all of the, I wouldn't say collateral damage, but the consequences of being the king, you know,
Mhm.
consequences of being on top.
Yeah, because
And
you know, you
yeah.
put a pretty big target on your back, right?
Right,
Being that successful, that rich.
right. But also it does bring up questions of power
Mhm.
and what we do with that power. And I feel like he is confronted with it. And some may criticize it, say, well, it is more about Spike Lee and it's more about the quote unquote old heads of Hollywood. But I feel like that really um, he does confront the issue of his responsibility, not really just to the community as an amorphous thing, but his responsibility on his responsibility on the impact of others.
Mhm.
And speaking of great power and great responsibility, I must shout out Superman and Fantastic Four First Steps. Two of those are three or four, I would say 3 or 4 of my favorite films of 2025. Sinners is definitely competing for that #1 slot. And since this is just a preview episode and we're going to, this was just a little taste, but our actual premiere, our full hour-long premiere is going to be on the 18th in a couple of weeks. I'm not going to tell you guys what my #1 favorite film of 2025 is. But what I will say is that people should tune in on the 18th because I think they're going to like what's to come. In fact, you know, we're also going to have a follow-up, or rather, we're going to have shows every 2 weeks, and then after you know, the second show, or rather second week, we're going to have the monster mashup. That'll be a great collaboration between us and some folks from the Seattle Scare Society. And I know we're getting a cane to wrap it up, but I think this has been a good kind of preview show.
Yeah,
What do you
no,
think?
I
It's
think
been
so
fun?
too. Super nervous coming in, you know, full disclosure, but it's been fun. So
Okay.
I don't think we crashed and burned. I think we did okay.
I know we're gonna make this work. We're gonna make this work. Hey, anyway, it's been Tony.
Yeah, it's been real.
Absolutely. And you know what? Never give up. Keep on fighting, and we'll see you for the next issue.